There we go. Hey guys, someone do me a favor and tell me whether or not audio is working. Trying to see in the background, but having a little bit of trouble here. I think we might have just a really bad connection today. Oh, cool. But yeah, everything is super slow and behind schedule, and it's not us. We started well within time. So we're doing one of our weekly Meatgistics live streams. It has been a while since we had an opportunity to do one of these. Holidays got in the way, and then I got COVID. This Monday was my first day back in like 10 days. So we obviously missed 2 because of that. But wanted to make sure we got one in today because we were getting some good momentum on it. I don't want it to totally die out. There'll definitely be, see, it just like lost itself on the waltonsinc.com/live again. Yes, Bob, very good. Patrick and I were just talking about that song. I asked for best Gordon Lightfoot songs and immediately came up The Wreck of the Edmunds Fitzgerald. I did it through chat. Yeah. Nope, we didn't talk about that. Awesome song. All right, so a couple of things we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what I have in front of me. I'm going to go over what this machine and this machine is, why they're used, how they're used. And then we're going to talk about some upcoming things on Meatgistics, what we have planned. But what I really want is for you guys to tell us of what we have planned, what is the most important to you. And hopefully you guys have some suggestions of things you'd like to see on Meatgistics. I want to jump to one thing real quick so we can get Patrick out of here. I need him for this section. One of the things I've been working on Meatgistics for a long time is a troubleshooting document. So it's just like what would be in the instructions of some page. So it's got an issue, like what's causing it, what type of product you're making, whether it's what kind of casing it is. Then it's got what's causing it and what are possible fixes. Now, eventually, that last column over there, and don't scroll too much further, Patrick, because the formatting gets all messed up. But eventually, in that last column over there, all of them will link to some form of video, whether that's just, a section of a video we've already shot or a new video. I don't know yet. Probably going to be just a section of something we've already shot, take you right to where we're already talking about protein extraction, something like that. But I've been working on that for a long time. It is fairly well advanced, but it would require some really focused work on my end to get that finished to the point where we would feel comfortable releasing it. So that's a big one I want to do, but it's also one that's gonna take a significant amount of time to get done. But hi, John. Hi, Papa Sop. Summertime Dream. Sundown. We can't not talk about Sundown when we're talking about Gordon Lightfoot. I just have always loved that song. I remember hearing it when I was in high school. I'm like, yeah, that's what it means when you're married. Like, I'll kill somebody if they come around my wife. All right, so I got to do something today that I've wanted to do for a long time, and that is make snack sticks on a pellet grill. So we've had pellet grills for a long time, but we don't do anything with them because the company that we sell out in our retail store doesn't let us sell their product online, and they do let other people sell it online. So we're uninterested in giving them any free advertising. And then we tried to bring in another, the Broil King had a pellet grill, but that had some problems and just nobody was interested in the Broil King line. So we brought in Camp Chef. I immediately bought one of the Camp Chef 24-inch woodwinds, brought it home, and I've been cooking up a storm on that thing. I've been doing reverse sear ribeye, strip steaks. I haven't done any ribs yet, but I've done chicken on it. And I absolutely love it. I like it a lot more than my older model. It seems to be really good at holding heat, and you can tell it how much or how little smoke you want it to create. The more smoke you create, the wider the temperature swings will be, and those can be pretty extreme at the higher smoke settings. But at low smoke, which is what I want when I'm doing chicken or even a steak, it's dead on. I set it to 180 and it stays at 180. I mean, obviously it goes up and down a little bit, but it does a great job. Another great thing about just the standard unit on that is that you can pull the heat deflector back so you have direct flame access. So if you want to sear, like I like to do reverse sears, you can just cook it on that, kick the heat all the way up, pull that deflector back, and then you're cooking right over open flame. However, there's even something better, and that's called the sear box. It goes on the side. It's a little one burner hooked up to a propane tank, gets super hot and does an awesome job searing. Another thing that is standard with these grills is they have a rack, a shelf. It's halfway up, and when it's pushed all the way back, it takes up the back half of the top of the smoker. You can simply just pull the bottom shelf out, and then you have from back to front, you have a shelf running the entire length of your smoker. So when we're doing snack sticks, that's a great feature because we want that meat to be as far away from that flame as possible. We want it to be indirect heat. Now, those start at 160 degrees. So, I mean, anyone who's looked at our smoke schedules know that we like to be significantly lower than that when we start. The reason for that is you want to be within 20 degrees of the animal's living temperature whenever possible. The reason for that is that it creates less stress on your proteins. And when you're creating less stress on your proteins, you're increasing your margin of error for things like protein extraction, case hardening, anything like that. You're going to reduce the likelihood of that happening. Of case hardening happening, and increase the efficiency of your protein extraction. So starting it lower is almost always better. It's like 5 degrees out there today, so I could have propped that lid, spent some time figuring out how much it had to prop it to bleed off 30 degrees of heat, but it was 5 degrees out there, and I did not feel like doing that. It was freezing cold. So we just started it at 160 degrees, put them on there. We measured our sticks first. So the one I have at home is a 24-inch. The one we have here is a 36-inch. So I laid out all my sticks, looped them one time, and then cut it so it was just under 32 inches, not total. It was just under 64 total, but one way 32 inches. And we put them on those shelves, and we got 5 pounds done with absolutely no problem. We could have gotten double that if we had actually tried to push them all so they weren't spreading out. We also did it so that the open end was facing down by the box. Reason for that is that's where the little hole is to get in for the temperature probes. So you just put it right through there and into the open end, just stick your temperature probe right in there. All right, so we did 160 degrees for 2 hours. And by the time I checked it, because I put them on and went home for lunch, by the time I came back, they were already 140, I think, 130, 140, 130. So I thought at that point I had a sous vide tank already in here because I figured it was going to take a long time for these to cook, but it didn't. I mean, it shot right to 140 in 2 hours. And from 140 to 160 was, I believe, just under an hour. Now, once they got to 130 degrees internal temperature, I did increase the temperature of the smoker from 160 to 175. Because at that point, at 130, I'm not worried about case hardening on the outside of the sausage. And I'm using 19 millimeter casings. So it's a pretty thin sausage. So it's not going to take it that long to finish. So at 175, they went from 130 to 160 in just under or right around an hour. Let's just call it an hour. They then went immediately into an ice bath, and I let them sit in there for about 8 minutes, pulled them out, and I've been letting them sit out. And I gotta say, I am shocked at how well that worked. I used a binder. I got really good protein extraction. I stuffed them till they were really nice and full. But there's very little wrinkling on these. I mean, there's some for sure, but compared to what I was expecting, there's very, very small amount of wrinkling. That pellet grill worked really well for this, and it especially shocked me with starting at 160 degrees. If it was warmer out, if I had less, if I had maybe a jacket or something on, I might have tried bleeding some heat out of it. But I mean, at 5 degrees, I'm just not sitting out there and trying to figure that out. So right at 160 degrees, it worked really, really well. One of the things, if you have something like the Camp Chef, after you get that first hour in at 160 degrees, if you want a stronger smoke taste, I'd turn up the smoke right then. Once I checked it for the first time at 130 degrees, it was basically done accepting smoke at that point. I did turn up the smoke because I didn't care about the heat fluctuation as much. But if you're wanting a smokier snack stick, you probably need to get to it after that first hour. I mean, it went from 30 something degrees to 130 in 2 hours. So you figure after that first hour, it's got to be somewhere in the 90 to 100 degree range, which is a good temperature to increase your smoke. But really incredibly impressed with how well that worked out. So for you people at home who don't have a vertical smoker, if you do have a pellet grill, it absolutely works. So, all right, I'm going to check chat. For some reason, it's not letting me pop out chat today. Usually I look at it separately, but quick question. I hope when you sous vide snack sticks after they reach 130 to 135 in the smoker, do the collagen casings loosen up in the stick? They don't dye the water. I've never had a single problem with them separating from the casing. Part of what causes snack stick casings to separate from the meat, believe it or not, isn't whether you cook them in water to finish it up or not. It is how quickly and how efficiently you get it into an ice bath, how well you dry it off after that ice bath, and what temperature you're putting them in the vac bags. So a couple of things. Ice baths are one of those weird things where with snack sticks, an ice bath is going to help set the collagen casing to the meat. So it's going to help prevent that separation. It's funny because it's the exact opposite with summer sausage. An ice bath is going to help separate the casing from the sausage. So it's the opposite with summer sausage and snack sticks. I don't understand the science behind it, but it definitely does work. Then you want to get these dried off as quickly as you can. I like putting everything on a single layer. I don't like stacking them on top because that does have the potential to cause some problems with the casing. Like if I just had these all laying on top of each, that was close, laying on top of each other, where it's being covered by the other sausage, not only can it not evaporate off of there, but you're also putting it in contact with another wet product, and that can have a negative effect on the casing. So a single layer, I roll them around every like 20 minutes just so each side has an opportunity to face up. I've tried putting a fan on them before. Didn't really work out that well. I mean, they had unbelievable pop, like to the point where it was too much snap once I took them out and from in front of the fan. But then when I put it in a cooler overnight, I came in the next morning and they were real soggy. So it was almost like it over dehydrated the outside of the case or the casing and the outside of the sausage. And then when it was in a cooler overnight, it absorbed some of the moisture from the cooler or fridge. So I don't like blowing, putting them in front of a fan, anything like that. Just every once in a while, come around and roll them over so each part has an opportunity to be dehydrated or evaporated off of. Do the casings loosen up to the point where you need to remove them? John, I assume that's the same question as far as the sous vide, and no, not at all. You really, unless You vacuum packed them when they're wet. That will definitely cause the casings to separate from the meat. Or you had some serious problems in either your ice bath or your smoke schedule. These should never come off. I mean, I don't even know if I'd be able to peel that off. I mean, if I do, just a ton of meat comes with it. So yeah, those should be set to the meat. You should have a good bind there. So my favorite snack stick seasoning, I mean, that's hard. There's habanero barbecue is amazing. But Willie's is such a good classic snack stick flavor. Anytime I'm doing any poultry or really any new protein at all, I always start with Willie's, just because I know it's got a great taste. It's well formulated. So yeah, I would go with Willie's. My number 2 choice would be habanero barbecue. I also really like the habanero lime, and the hot buffalo wing jerky and snack stick one is really good too. So David, I would call it a lighter smoke. Most of what I do here is either on our PK 100, or if I'm making a big batch, I'll use our big 500T smokehouse, which is one of those ones where you roll the whole meat truck into it. Both of those do an unbelievable job at putting both smoke flavor and appearance on a product. This definitely did not reach that same level. There's just it was in there for a fraction of the time that it would be with the PK 100, and 2, it's not as set up for that. I probably could have gotten a similar level if I'd put the smoke setting up to 10 or even 8, something like that. The problem is when you increase the level of smoke, you're going to increase the temperature fluctuation. And to me, it was more important, especially the first time I was doing this, because we've not done this before, for it to have a consistent temperature that I was easily able to monitor and control. So, but I mean, there's still a good smoke flavor to it. What I was saying earlier was if I was doing this again and I was wanting to get more smoke flavor, I'd started it at the lowest temperature it'll go to, which is 160. And after the first hour, I would then increase the smoke setting. So, yeah, Ryan, the Pit Boss, yeah, they make good stuff. Camp Chef is also coming out with a vertical pellet similar to the PK 100. It won't have the same insulation as the PK 100. One of the things that makes the PK 100 such a favorite of ours is how thickly it's insulated. So it does a great job maintaining temperatures. It can get up to really warm or hot temperatures on super cold days. I'm sure the Camp Chef, when we get it, won't have that same level of insulation. But I mean, few things will. We're been waiting for that. We ordered that at the same time we ordered the Woodwinds, and just still haven't gotten them yet. Oh, so here's some news for everybody. Austin has COVID. After he called me COVID John on our last live stream, he now has COVID. So it's a little comeuppance for him there. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, we hope he's okay. He is home. He will not be allowed in here for 10 days like I wasn't allowed in here. So I'm sure he's going to struggle with that. Working from home is terrible. I just struggled with it all the time. One, this was, I mean, it's a small little working station. And 2, my dogs were always around annoying me, distracting me. So I struggled for sure. Okay, favorite was a smoke level. Got that. Definitely use sponges for anything you need humidity, but works great. Yep. So what Ryan's talking about there is if you want to increase the humidity in your vertical smoker, and I'm assuming it would work with something like the Camp Chef too. I just haven't done that yet. Maybe I need to. I need to check that out. But what we're talking about, a lot of people will put a pan of water in with the smoker. Theory is that water is going to evaporate up off there and it's going to help keep it more humid in there. The reason that's important is because when we're cooking anything on a grill or smoker, we're going to run into something called the stall. The stall is when the evaporation energy coming off of the meat. So as the meat cooks, it's pushing its water out of the muscles and it pools up on the surface. Well, that then evaporates off, and it's the same thing as your skin. As it evaporates, it's cooling the meat. So you're going to run into a point where it's difficult to get the internal temperature to climb because the evaporation energy coming off of the meat is matching that thermal processing energy. It makes sense. The ways to get past, there are 3 ways to get past. Well, there's 4 ways to get past the stall. You can wrap it, you can just wait it out, you can increase the temperature, or you can increase the relative humidity. By increasing the relative humidity, which is just the amount of moisture in the air, you make it harder for the water that's on the skin of the product to evaporate off. Hence, it makes it harder for it to cool the meat. I mean, think about how much hotter 95 degrees feels when it's 90% humidity versus when it's low humidity. That's because your body's struggling to regulate or lower its temperature because there's already so much humidity in the air. So what adding a pan of water does is it probably raises your relative humidity 5-10%. So not great, but certainly better than nothing. We were playing around with ways here a couple of years ago to try to increase that. I looked at things to go in the water pan as an agitator, like a bubbler, to try to make it easier for that to evaporate. I looked at chemicals to put in that. You definitely don't want to go that route. I never tried it, but there's a lot of anything that's going to do that is not going to be something you want in that water. At least nothing I found. There might be a simple way to do it, but they all had long, scary names with bad side effects. What we eventually settled on was taking large automotive sponges, getting them wet in the water, and then standing them up so as much of the sponge as possible is up in the air. When you look at an automotive sponge or any sponge, it's filled with little holes and tunnels, and all of that is wicking up water and providing itself as surface area for evaporation. So it's doing a great job to increase the relative humidity. With the automotive sponges, I believe we got it up to almost 50% relative humidity, which is really good. And then we also used a dry wick towel at one point, and that got above 50%. The problem with the dry wick thing is that it does the dry wick towel is it does take up an entire rack. I've since kind of changed the way I do it. I just put my large water pan on the drip tray, and then I put the towel in that, and that's what I do now. With that method this summer, I emptied my big, I don't know, it's got to be 4-quart water pan in like a 3-hour smoke. I mean, it was like dry empty. So that material definitely does work. And I think it's called Aqua Dry. They're the towels that are designed like to go around your neck at sporting events to like help cool you down. But yeah, they work amazingly for that. We've been trying to find a supplier of a material like that so we can make like Walton's and Meatgistics smoking towels or whatever we would call them, because it really does do a good job. But automotive sponges are much easier to find and to use. All right, where were we? Use sponges. Do you use boiling water to start your sous vide? It seems to take a long time to get to 170 degrees. That's from Jeff. I use as hot water as will come out of the tap, which here at Walton's is pretty hot, right around 140 degrees. It does drastically shorten your heating time. If you're using like lukewarm tap water or anything like that, yeah, that is going to take a long time, especially if you have a smaller sous vide unit, like our little Weston unit. If I try to use that to heat up poly pan or, God forbid, a meat, it probably wouldn't do it on a whole meat lug. But yeah, it can take a significant amount of time. At that point, yeah, you'd be better off boiling it or at least heating it on a pan first and then transferring that in. If you have something like the VacMaster SV1 or the HBC, that'll be a little bit faster. They're a little bit more heavy duty, designed for kind of more of a commercial application. But again, it's still going to take some time. And then there was, I wish I remember what it was. Some guy was talking on Meatgistics. He had a brand of sous vide unit that I'd not heard of before, but it seemed like it was going to do, I want to say like 30 quarts. No, that's not that much. I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I think I looked it up and it was only like $180 or something like that. Rich Kevy asks, what's your opinion on the Pit Boss vertical smoker doing snack sticks or summer sausage? I'm sorry, I don't use a Pit Boss, but whoever, Ryan Stevens, if you would be so kind as to answer that in the chat form. Lynn Fletcher loves his PK 100. Awesome. 1200 watt sous vide and have no issues. John, I wonder if that was you that I'm talking about then. Yeah, the Weston will get to 170. It's just got to be a smaller pot or something like that. And another thing you can do to help is cover it with something. Just prevent it from being so easy for it to evaporate water off, because it's the same thing with the stall. That's how that temperature is dropping. I use water pan with my Traegers. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't really think of that until right now. But yeah, that should work. You just got to find a big enough water pan. And if you're using just the top rack, I mean, that opens up a lot of possibilities for surface area. If you got a big roasting pan, something like that, that's nice and long, you might be able to get your humidity up pretty significantly. Like when I did this tests in the beginning, our commercial application specialist was interested, and then I was super excited that we went from 10% humidity with just the water pan to 50% humidity with the other two things we had tried. And he's like, yeah, that's definitely better than nothing, but you know, we want it higher than that. So apparently he was hoping we could get to like 80% humidity, because that's what will like our big 500T, you can set that to 90% relative humidity. So Team Blue leader gave Team Orange leader COVID. I don't think it was me. Like he must have already had it by the time I came back to work. I just got back Monday. He went out Tuesday or maybe Wednesday. So, and I was not contagious anymore. But let's all wish Austin a speedy recovery. When we had him out working on just website stuff for, I don't know how long that was, month and a half, that was hell on me. So hopefully he stays healthy, feels okay, and can get back to work as soon as possible. Okay. John Belvedere, have you ever looked into a humidifier either outside or inside the smoker to raise humidity? Yep. They sell kits to actually do that. We did play around with it. At the time I found the automotive sponges and the AquaDry dry wick material, I was obsessed with this. And I absolutely looked into humidifiers, even drilling a hole through the bottom of your smoker and setting up a humidifier there. The problem is, without a way to actually monitor the amount of humidity we have in the air in there, you're better off at 50% than putting too much in and it being 80% the entire time. A summer sausage, a snack stick, those are a semi-dried sausage. If we cook them with too high humidity the entire time, it's not going to have a good texture. The outside of the casing on a snack stick will be unappealing. So we don't want to put too much humidity in too soon. We always say do a 20, 30, sometimes even an hour drying period at the beginning of your smoke schedule. the reason we say to go for that period of time, let's put it that way, is once you start adding humidity, you don't have a good way of monitoring that. It's in there. With a professional smokehouse, we can put it to 25% humidity. We can put it to 30, 40. We can step it up. So while like a humidifier or something hooking up through the bottom and going up does offer you the ability to increase it, just be careful not to just run it the whole time and get your humidity too high. I hope that makes sense. Coleman Party Stacker Cooler. Yeah, I feel bad because I can't remember who it is, but somebody on Meatgistics, is it Process Head? It's somebody has a sick setup for their sous vide. I mean, they've got a good cooler with a hole drilled in it so that the sous vide can fit down in it, and then it closes. And I mean, you're not going to lose anything that way. That's a pretty awesome setup. So Rochelle, yep, that's kind of what I was talking about. Adverse effect to too much humidity. You can create some problems with texture, with the casing, because we do want an initial drying period. You can also get what looks like streaks down it. So if you adhere smoke and then too much humidity comes on, it will run down like condensation and it'll kind of look like stripes down the sausage. Johnny Ward Jr. says, I'm wondering how do you or where is to print color, but without the pink salt, can you use celery in a liquid? So celery juice powder, which is what I'm assuming you're talking about there, has curative properties, but it's not recognized by the USDA as a cure. To the best of my knowledge, it cannot be used in a brine. I believe it can be used in an injection, but not like a regular brine. I always use water pan with ice cubes when cold smoking cheeses. It helps prevent the cheese from drying out. There you go. That's a great idea. All right. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys, I don't know that we've ever actually showed this during a live demonstration, but I've got two things here that we use to monitor shelf stability in products. The first thing I have is called a pH meter. So this is going to read or test the pH of our meat. So this is one we sell to Milwaukee. It's not that expensive. And we simply press it into the meat and read it there. Oop, it's got to stay in there. So it says it's still reading, but it hasn't moved in a while. And it's 5.34. So our pH of this is 5.34. Now, the reason that we're testing this is because there is a happy balance between pH and water activity, which is this machine over here, where we consider the product shelf stable. The problem with that is that, unfortunately, without a way to test both of these, we can't recommend, even if you follow our processes perfectly, we can't tell you that it's water or that it's shelf stable. So what this is a water activity meter. This is going to read the amount of unbound water in our product. So what we do is we cut some slices of it. We put it in this little cup. This cup has a little line across the middle of it. And we just have to make sure we don't get anything above that line or Dylan will kill us. Because how this works is there's a little fan in there and a little motor and a mirror above that fan. So that's going to start reading. It blows air onto the meat. And then that mirror at the top has a super sensitive sensor on it, and it's going to read any any water that's blown up and collects on there. So we then take our pH and our water activity. And Wisconsin Meat Lab has a neat little online tool that's free that they call the Shelf Stability Predictor. And I'll go ahead and pop that in the chat that we've done this before, so that people can take their pH and their water activity and find out if they're shelf stable or not. So what did we say was 5.34 on the pH? And we'll just wait for our water activity. How about adding water in the meat, let's say 10 to 15% to maintain the humidity? So the more water you add to the meat, the more power it's going to have to stay cool, because it's going to expel that water, and that water then makes its way to the surface and is available to evaporate. When it evaporates off the surface of the meat, that's what cools the meat. So think of it as the exact same thing as sweating. The reason you sweat is your body says, hey, I'm too hot. Let's lose some moisture, push it to our skin, let that evaporate off, and that will cool us down. So that pork butt, those ribs, whatever, are all trying to do the exact same thing. Or maybe not exact same thing, but it seems like the exact same thing to me. Okay. Sorry for the typo. I'm trying to find an organic solution or substitute for pink salt. Yeah. So, John, there's a bunch of... I want to walk carefully here. When you go to the grocery store and you see bacon or ham that says no nitrites added, or only nitrates that occur in nature, it's still the exact same thing. A nitrite, whether it's taken from a root vegetable like celery or it's created as a chemical, they're the same compound. Nitrites are, I believe the only time they're proven to be a carcinogen is when they're above a certain level, and then that meat that it's in is charred. It's a reason why there's ingoing parts per million for bacon is 120 parts per million for the injected and 200 parts per million for dry rubbed, because at those parts per million, even if you char it, it's still not a carcinogen. It's only when we get above those levels. But obviously that's new science, and it's a lot of people are going towards a more organic there's an organic push. People are willing to pay more for it. I don't blame all these people making an organic bacon if people want it. But in the end, a nitrite is a nitrite. So, but yeah, celery juice powder, recognized by the USDA as having curative properties, not a cure. The other one that's starting to gain some steam is beetroot powder. And that, it seems to be, acts more as a cure accelerator. So people are using celery juice powder and beetroot powder together. It makes sense. I mean, people say eat your beets. It's good for your blood, and it does speed up the conversion of nitrites into nitric oxide, which, people are big on beets about right now. So. All right. Thanks, Lynn. Let's see what this is saying. All right. So we are at 0.92. So when we take our 5.34 and our 0.92, we are at probability of growth of 0.08. Anything from 0 to 0.2 is growth very unlikely. So, I mean, we're good. We made shelf stable snack sticks in 3 hours on our pellet grill. I can't tell you how shocked I was how easy that was. Couple of things I would definitely say: use encapsulated citric acid. That's why we have a pH of 5.3. And when you're using encapsulated citric acid, make sure that you're going to keep the temperature, the internal temperature of the meat, above 130 degrees for a full hour. That's the amount of time that encapsulation, which I believe is either grapeseed or palm seed oil, something like that, that's the amount of time it needs to fully dissolve. If you went from 130 to 160 in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you very well could have an unpleasing sand-like bite to the meat. It'll feel gritty. So you want to make sure you keep it above 130 degrees for an hour. It doesn't have to be much more than an hour. Just an hour gets it done. All right. I'm going to look back at chat real quick, and then I want to talk about what we have planned coming up for Meatgistics, and see what you guys think is more worthy of us pursuing, or what should be first. Ooh, that changed to 0.95. Let's recalculate that real quick. Yep, we're still good. We're at 0.2, which is the upper level of acceptability. So that's why at home, I can't recommend that you treat these as a shelf stable product. Always should be vacuum sealed. Freeze them when you're not using them. Leave them in the fridge other than that. All right. So we talked about it at the very beginning of the live stream, but one of the big things I've been working on is a troubleshooting document. It will give you the ability to come to Meatgistics, put in what problem you're having on what product. It will then show you what the possible causes of what your problem is and what you can do to fix those problems. It might not always be something you can do to fix the product you've already made, but for the next time you make it. I've been working on this for, I don't even know. It started as just an idea, probably a year and a half. The problem with it is that to get it completed from where it is now to completed would take a concerted effort of lots of time on my part. And I just don't know that I have that time now. As it is, in the rare times I'm here and I don't have anything else I'm doing, I always jump right to it. But that is the type of thing that would be better served by, sitting down for a couple of weeks and working on nothing but it. So that's one of the things. The dry cured series, we want to do more with dry cured sausage. We have a couple of back to firm products, TSPX being one of them. We have ways to monitor pH and temperature, and we have a Eller dry curing cabinet. So we've made some dry sausage here in the past. It's amazing. But it's difficult, and I question our ability to make the information useful to you at home, because I'm not going to tell you, do this in Missouri in September, that your basement will be the right temperature and humidity. I'm going to give you instructions on how to do it in an Eller cabinet, because I'm not going to give you something that has I'm not going to give you instructions on something that has the possibility of getting you sick. So, people have been doing it in their basements and wherever for years, and, for good reasons, because 90% of the time it's going to work out. But that 10%, it's probably not even 10%, it's probably 5% of the time that things spoil or something grows in it that you don't recognize and it gets people seriously sick. I'm not going to be responsible for that. But that is, again, that's something we want to work on, is a dry cured series. It's just, I don't know how useful it's going to be to you at home. So, Then we're wanting to do more equipment videos, more demonstrations on specific issues that somebody has. We'll talk about what to do, for example, when you're stuffing sausage and your gearbox just isn't pushing it down, like you're basically bending the handle, how to fix that, how to prevent that. We'll talk about a bunch of important things to do with grinding. I have found over the last year or so that my second grinds have gone so much better since I've started either putting all of the meat back in our blast freezer. And I know not everybody has a blast freezer, but for 10, 15 minutes between the first and second grind. But way more importantly is what I do now is I get up on something. I usually have to stand on something because I'm not the tallest guy in the world. And I can look down the throat of my grinder and I put just enough of meat that's already gone through the first grind down until I see the auger grab it and start moving it down. Then I add just a little bit more and a little bit more. When I started doing this, I was shoving that stomper down the throat to try to push it down. Well, when you're doing that, you're creating back pressure, and the meat actually has a tendency to come back up over the gaps in the auger. So just lightly, little bit at a time goes way faster. So things like that. The big one is the Meatgistics meetup. We definitely would have done that in 2020 if everything hadn't gone crazy with COVID. We're definitely wanting to do it in 2021, but it's going to be a significant investment for us. So we're not going to do it until we know we can actually have it. And I don't want to wait that long and then have to rush everything and make it not what we want it to be. We want it to be something centered around Waltons, where we have classes, we have some demonstrations, we have some competitions. Then, we have after hours events. So we don't want to rush it and make it not everything it could be, but we also can't just assume we can do everything we want to do. And then, when later in 2021, when they say, oh, you can only have 20 people at a place and, we're left holding the bag. Videos hosted on Meatgistics. So we've talked about this in the past. We're not going to stop using YouTube. I mean, we've got 30-something thousand subscribers. We spent a lot of time and energy building up that base. And that is still how a lot of people watch our videos. But we've got 15,000 Meatgistics users now. And those 15,000 Meatgistics users mean a lot more to me than our 30,000 YouTube subscribers. They do. It makes more sense. And probably a lot of you are on both of them. So we're eventually going to put it where things will get released as a video on Meatgistics first, and then later it'll be released to YouTube. We are eventually also going to start live streaming on Meatgistics. So you'll still be able to come to Walton's. You'll still be able to come to waltonsinc.com/live, but it will forward you to meatgistics.com/live. And how it'll work is there'll be video player at top that will be Walton's branded. And then you'll just comment as you're logged into Meatgistics, and it'll kick the newest comments to the top. I've said it before, but one of the reasons behind that is it makes it so much easier to go back through and find out who said what. When I need to find something on a live stream now, I need to go back and watch the whole thing. And even at 2 times speed, that takes a lot of time. So, and it happens all the time. I need to go back and find something. All right. So I've not looked at chat for a while. Hopefully, some people have been given some ideas. John Belvedere. So if you're going to sous vide, should the meat be held in the smoker so the temp stays at 130 for an hour prior to place it in 106? Okay. So, John, a couple of things. Smoke it till the internal temperature is 130 degrees. While you're getting it up there, get the water in your temperature or in your sous vide cooker to 177. I've done a bunch. That is the best temperature for larger diameter, or 172 for smaller diameter. At those temperatures from 130 to 160 shouldn't take more than 30 minutes for small sausage, 45 minutes for larger diameter sausage. It works really, really fast. You've asked a bunch of questions on here. I gotta say, you should just go ahead and do it. I haven't seen anyone who's had major problems with this. This Parksider brought this up in a post someone was having years ago, was having problems with their summer sausage. If you want to look it up, it was Summer Sausage Nightmare was the post. And that was the first time that was really discussed on Meatgistics, and a lot of people have just started doing it because it is better. It really does. It gives a better product. It cuts hours off your smoke time, especially with summer sausage. I mean, summer sausage, you could be looking at a 10-hour smoke time. Finishing it up in water, 4 hours. I mean, it really is significant time savings. And that's time that the sausage hasn't just been dehydrating the entire time. We've already made it past the dehydrating phase. Like, we've gotten as much water out of it as we want by the time we're at 130 degrees. So from there, it's just, let's get it cooked quick. Gotcha. Yep. If using ECA, as long as you leave it in that water for an hour, if it's a combination of how long it stayed in the smoker over 130 and in the water, yes, using ECA, it doesn't matter if that hour is in the smoker or in the water. Just has to be an hour. Sorry about that. They should be shelf stable outside lately for most places in U.S. God, that's true. My dogs at lunch today wanted to go for an hour-long walk, so I was not pleased with them. It's like 5 degrees out there, and I've got a balaclava I put over my head, and I had a big winter hat on, and I had my hat pulled down to here and the thing up to here. It was the chief of police stopped me and was talking to me, thanking me for making him hide in his basement for 5 days because I'd had contact with him right before I knew I got sick. So Matthew Hoffman, do you know when you may be getting your own brand of vacuum sealer? Yep. We are working on it quickly. It will be 2021. Hopefully sooner in 2021 than late. I'm working with our graphics guy right now on packaging for it. And we are getting them ordered, getting them in. So we are going to have a chambered machine, which is going to be awesome. It's an air pump, so it's totally maintenance free. Thank you, God. Totally maintenance free. And then we're going to have at least 3 brands or 3 styles of the chamberless kind, where just the opening of the bag goes in. But they should be here soon. So. Administrative issue. RecTech should be spelled RecTech. This is the... is that on Meatgistics you're saying? We made a group RecTech, and I probably just have it spelled incorrectly, and I think I can fix... Yep. I should be able to fix that from right here. Groups. I guess I can't fix it from right there. Try one more thing. Yep, this is where I can fix it. Where else would you be able to get in touch with somebody and have them fix it right away like that? It's the service we provide you. No, I'm just kidding. All right, that should be fixed. Make sure I actually did it correct. RECTEQ. Yep. Meatgistics iOS, no. And here's the thing. With everything I just listed, there's one thing that when it happens is just going to blow all that away and make it so we can't even look at it. and that's the new website. And we're getting closer and closer. When that goes live, for the week leading up to, and I'm sure a couple of weeks after, we'll be doing nothing but testing, fixing bugs, fixing customers' issues. In the long run, this is 100% going to be worth it. It's more stable, won't have problems with searches. I don't know if anyone else has this issue, but sometimes, most of the time, I use our search bar. First time I enter, it just goes back to the same page, and then I have to retype in, and then it'll take me to the search results page. That will not happen on the new one. We also have some advanced abilities with coupons on this. In the past, we've only been able to allow use of a single coupon. We will have some ability to have multiple coupons. The wish list will work. You have the ability to have as many shopping lists as you want. So say it's deer season, you're doing, processing here. So you want these things, you create a shopping list for it. Then a couple months later, you're going to need these things. You create a shopping list for it, and that just stays there. So you just have to come back and check out. So, it does have some really cool abilities. Oh, I was hoping that you spelled Rectech how I had it spelled initially. Does Greece have deserts? I only have a dessert. Yeah, I can't. Sorry, there was a phone call. Balaclava, right? Balaclava. I know it's not baklava. My writer wife says you have more for dessert. Yeah. All right, so that's what we have planned. Once the new website comes, I think we're going to have more time after that to really focus on some more video stuff. We've just shot a Walton's buying guide for all our grinders. What we did was we went through and we talked about the features on them, what we like about them. Then we went through and talked about who should buy what size. So we talked about how many pounds, what size batches you do, or is appropriate for the number 8, the number 12, 22, 32. Wanted to call it a buying guide instead of a review, because the number one comment we get on YouTube anytime we do a review is, this isn't a review. So buying guide is what we're calling it. But I have to say, my 22, where is it? No, it is back there, just right behind me. My 22 that takes Specco plates and knives, that thing's a horse. I've put probably over 1,000 pounds through it already, and I absolutely love it, especially on that second grind. It's awesome. The limitations of finishing summer sausage in water, there aren't any. As long as you're not going to put it up to like 177 degrees and plan on leaving it in there. Like, one of the nice things about sous vide, say you're doing a steak, if you want your steak to be 122 degrees by the time you take it out, so you can just finish it up, sear it each side, you just set the water to 122 degrees and you walk away, come back in 6 hours, and it's still at 122 degrees. With summer sausage, you want to basically get it to that target temperature, which is 160 degrees, and get it out and get it into an ice bath. So that would be the only limitation I would think of. But yeah, I do it with any Lebanon bologna we make, anything like that. It all gets finished up in water now. It gets expensive to finish more than X. What do you mean by expensive? Like the energy to heat the water? Baklava. So they're pronounced the same? I thought it was balaclava or something. So it's not really expensive. Some people have even, instead of going with a sous vide unit, are buying like what do you call them, like chicken or turkey, like roaster dishes, and just heating the water with a hot plate or even a flame. I've seen people do it on stovetops. I think Papa Sop does it on a stovetop. Papa Sop, if you're still here, let us know. Yeah, I mean, you don't need a big fancy sous vide thing. Even the little Weston sous vide, I think they're $90 each. If you got 2 of those, it's enough to do a whole meat lug. In a whole meat lug, you can do 20-something pounds of snack sticks, no problem. Probably do 20-something pounds of summer sausage, no problem, too. Yeah, turkey roaster or fish fryer, absolutely. The only problem with something like that is you need to stabilize the temperature. One of the nice things about sous vide is you have a digital thing that you set, and it's going to get there. With a turkey fryer or something like that, you need to make sure that you have enough flame coming, but that's take a couple of times to get really good at and figure out how much to use, and from there on you're good. Okay. Yep, he does meatloaf. Oh, that's right. He's got the Weston. Yeah, Nick, it's better. For sure. For sure. I was telling somebody the other day, it might have been on the live stream we did Monday, but if I could get the numbers on the side of a slicer where the dial is to actually correlate to something, because they don't. Like, you have perfect ability to make those millimeters, make them centimeters, something. But they're not. They're just numbers. If I could do that, if I could get more people to finish their sausage in water, and if I could standardize a 19 millimeter casing should fit on a 19 millimeter stuffing tube. Those two things should be the same. If I get those things done, I've lived a purposeful life. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here. We'll be back next week. The next big Walton's live stream will be March 1st, which is a Monday. Yep. So we'll be doing that Monday. But we'll be back on the 18th, 25th. So I'll talk to you guys again in between then and now. Thanks, guys.